Today we are going to be going over the best suburbs for you to live in. I've talked a lot in my other videos about why you might not want to live in Seattle. Maybe you do, that's okay. There's other videos about that. But here we are going into the burbs outside of the Seattle city limits, and we're going to talk about what's best and why my opinion differs a little bit from what else you might find online. So stay with me. We're going to get into it right now. So if you have not been to my channel before, welcome. This is Emily Cressy. I am a real estate agent, and my goal is to help families relocating to the Seattle area, mostly from out of state, but some from within, to find that perfect neighborhood and ultimately the house that they want to buy. It's very overwhelming. There's a lot of logistical things to try to deal with when you're moving. And so many people spend years, months in the research mode, and that is what this channel is for, to try to help you with answering a lot of your questions here. So make sure you subscribe. I release new videos every week. I've got a backlog of wonderful videos for you to watch. Things don't change that fast in real estate, but if you want the most accurate and up-to-date information, feel free to give me a call at my website, homeproassociates.com. You can also call me at 206-578-3438. I will take texts as well and would love to hear from you. So the thing that we are going to be going over today is suburbs, because a lot of people don't want to be in the city of Seattle for a variety of reasons. Crime, schools, whatever it is, that doesn't appeal to you. Maybe you can't afford to be that close into town. So we're going to look at what some of the other options are. Let's get it. So here we are looking at our old friend Google to see what Google's AI bot mind thinks are the best Seattle suburbs. They have Bellevue, Bothell, Mercer Island, Redmond, and Sammamish. Good freaking luck, people. If you want to live in any of those places, I hope you have $1.5 million to buy a house or more. These are some of the most expensive luxury neighborhoods in the whole city, if not the whole state. Okay, I'm sure the AI determined that they have great schools and nice homes here, but you're going to need to have some money. So if you have money, give me a call. We will find you a lovely house in these areas. If you don't have the budget for this, we're going to go into some other options here today. Y'all check out my videos on Bellevue, Clyde Hill, Medina, Yarrow Point, all of those good places if you want to live in Redmond, etc. I've actually got some good videos on Bothell as well, and Bothell, of these on the list, is probably one of the more affordable alternatives. But because Bellevue is so expensive, Redmond, where Microsoft is located, so expensive, Lake Sammamish, you're on a lake, so expensive. So I don't want you to feel like these are your only options. We're going to get into Emily's picks right now. Okay, so you keen-eyed observers might notice that I am now wearing a different outfit and on a different background. I recorded that fun little intro, and then I had to go pick up my kids from school. So they're in drama right now. They're doing a theater production, and their schedule's a little different than usual. So we're going to pick up right where we left off, going into some fun family neighborhoods for you, and the ones that I do not recommend as well. So I showed you those best suburbs that were incredibly nice, but also incredibly expensive. Now we're going to switch over just so you have the full spectrum, and kind of when I come to my top list, you'll see why that is. Now we're looking at the most affordable suburbs here in the Seattle area. They have Federal Way, Bremerton, Auburn, Everett, and Lake Forest Park. And I'll tell you what I feel about these ones. So let's see where they are on the map. Here's Seattle, the biggest city in the state, where the Space Needle is. We have Tacoma down here, and we have Everett up here. These are kind of the big three. And then we also have Bellevue. I have no idea why it's not showing up on the map. Bellevue is a sister city to Seattle. It's kind of a twin city type of thing. It's directly across Lake Washington. Our geography is really defined by Lake Washington over here, Puget Sound over here. Our geography is really defined by Lake Washington between the two cities, and Puget Sound, which is saltwater. This is part of the ocean. So when we talk about affordable suburbs near Seattle, Federal Way is down here. It's by Tacoma. Essentially, we're right on the edge of the county line where it switches from King County to or Pierce County down here. And Tacoma is a rougher area. It's a little hit and miss with the crime. And so Federal Way is more of a suburb, and Auburn is right here. It's another suburb. So because of affordability, you can definitely buy more house from your money down this way. It's going to take you about an hour to commute up to Seattle in rush hour. So yes, these are affordable. They're livable. They're nice. This is a big like commuter area, and you have good access to both cities. But it is a trek to get into the city, just like if I was telling you to live up here in Everett or Marysville. These are kind of this, if you look at this gray area, that's all the urban area where it's built up into city, high density housing. It's kind of like a diamond shape, right? The tip is Everett, and the other tip is down here in Auburn and Federal Way. We get a lot of heavy traffic here, people driving into SeaTac, people driving into Boeing. Down here is an Army base in Tacoma, people driving into there. So just be prepared. I mean, maybe if you work shift work or you're off the normal 9 to 5 kind of hours, you're not going to be as concerned about heavy commuter traffic, but that is definitely something to be aware of. The next place on the list was Bremerton, which is over here on the peninsula. So this area is called the peninsula. This whole thing is like it's a rainforest. We call it a temperate rainforest. The vampire books, the Twilight books were written about here because there's like very little sunlight. There's forests of ferns and moss and that type of thing, right? With all the water coming off of the ocean and hitting these mountains, the clouds get stuck here and they let loose. On the other side, we have a little bit of a rain shadow. Tends to be sunnier. Sequim, it's spelled like Sequim, is an area that's known for being a sunny banana belt, popular with retirees right here. Lavender farms there. It's a nice little day trip. But you have to take the ferry in order to get back and forth to here. So if you are in Bremerton, I hope you're working in Bremerton or somewhere here on the peninsula. There's a Navy base here. But if you're commuting into Seattle every day, that's a bit of a voyage. Not necessarily easy to get from one to the other. So even though geographically it's close on the map, it's not real easy to get to from a commute perspective. So as you can see here, it takes a 1-hour ferry ride to get from Bremerton to Seattle, and that's just for the ferry to dock, into Seattle. You have to drive to the ferry in the Bremerton side, and then once you get to Seattle, you have to drive or take the bus to wherever you're going. So this is not something that I would recommend if you're trying to live in Seattle and then commute to work. Federal Way, Auburn, Bremerton, we touched on those. Everett, here's the map, here's Seattle. Everett is way up here. It's kind of the tip of that diamond shape that we talked about. And yes, I would say it is drivable, but it's going to take about an hour to drive in. This is where you go if you have to. I made another YouTube video about Everett and got a lot of comments about how people felt unsafe there. There's crime, there's a prison, there's like mentally ill people, homeless, drug users, that type of a thing. So a lot of the people who watched that video, apparently living in Everett, were not completely satisfied with it. You can do your own due diligence. I think there are nice areas. Silver Lake is a nice area. They have some property out looking over the water that's nice, but it is hit and miss. So don't just take it on face value without driving around. I got a call from a lead who wanted to see a new construction property in Everett. It looked great in the photos. It had just been built in kind of a historic area. It was an infill property. And as I was driving to the property, she called me and she said, "We are not going to see this house. I want to cancel my showing. I just saw a homeless person, like, I don't know what they were doing, rolling around, and I don't feel comfortable. So I'm out." That's what some people think about Everett. So do your due diligence there, especially in terms of crime and that type of thing. I'm going to be trying to focus in on suburbs that are closer into a Seattle or Bellevue commute. So I'm taking you now to the MLS. This is our, proprietary real estate agent thing. And we have a mapping software that can show a radius of how long it takes to get at certain times of day to or from work or home or those types of things. To kind of give you an idea, I'm loading this up with drive times for Seattle and Bellevue, which are these two red dots in the middle. So as you can see, we have two main freeways. I-5 is right here, 405 is right here, and that's going to be the majority of the north-south traffic going this way. We also have this road, which is I-90, Interstate 90. It goes all the way to the east coast of the United States, and it goes to Bellevue and Issaquah. So it's interesting to see how much overlap there is between these two circles, but the outer ring here is the one that's within a 45-minute drive of Bellevue, and then the inner ring is for Seattle. So essentially what we're looking at for keeping the commute within a 45-minute drive, which is kind of my assumption of where you want to end up if you're going into the Seattle or Bellevue downtown core for work, is that you want to be no further south than Kent. You want to be no further east than North Bend. Up here, you can see we're in the mountains. You're going to be getting heavy snow and going skiing right here at Snoqualmie Pass. There's also forest area, so there's not really a lot of housing. You can't go further east and still find houses. There's more opportunity if you go north, and there's more development along I-5. So you can go north essentially as far as Everett with that caveat emptor, right? Buyer beware when it comes to the reviews that I get on my Everett videos. Okay, so let's look at what the best sort of affordable mid-range suburb options are within this area. And you can see here, I'm going to take these off. So you can see here in my map that essentially this area is called the east side of the lake. We know our east and our west never eat shredded wheat. Okay, this area that I just circled is what I would consider the east side. The east side of Lake Washington, right? That's kind of the local parlance. The east side in general is more expensive. It's nicer maintained, it's cleaner, there's less crime and prostitution and drugs and vandalism and graffiti and homeless people and tent camping and those types of things. So this area tends to be more desirable and more expensive. I would say plan to pay approximately a 20% premium to live in this area. Here in South Seattle, which I will put as kind of here in this area, it tends to be a little bit more industrial. This has, our train stations, our docks with shipping coming in. Right here, we have a lot of cranes and things with container ships coming in from China. So we have them putting it on train tracks. We have it putting it on trucks to ship off across the country. We have down here SeaTac Airport. We have here the Boeing airline manufacturer, and we have another Boeing facility here in Renton. So this is an area where usually I'm pretty bullish about like, hey, just go and smile at people and spread love and everything will be fine. I was selling a house in this area this year, actually this fall, and I stopped at a gas station because my car had this much gas left in it and I didn't know if I could make it all the way back. So I had to stop for gas. And it was honestly like the most uncomfortable that I felt getting gas. And I probably wouldn't have stopped. I actually cut off. I didn't pump the full tank of gas. I was like, I'm getting out of here. This is too weird. There were about 15 people lounging around outside at the gas station. I decided not to pump outside of my car. I got back in my car and like sat inside and rolled up the window. Somebody came and knocked on the window and I was kind of like, Arr! And then he went swinging on the banister of the gas station, like the hand. Anyway, it was a little bit weird. And so I just was like, my spidey sense was going off and I left. And like, a couple blocks or miles away where my listing was, it was fine. And I felt totally comfortable again. But there just are some strange happenings here. And I'm sure that can happen anywhere. But that was just a personal experience that I've had there. And like I said, that woman had that weird experience in Everett as well. So there are pockets and areas where you might not feel comfortable. And that's, like I said, why it's really important to kind of narrow down where you want to be. And the, waterfront property here, it's going to be nice. Here is going to be nice. West Seattle is nice. Anytime you're on the water, you're going to have like more expensive, nicer neighborhoods and that type of thing. West Seattle has actually a really fun beachy vibe, and it's been very popular with clients that are kind of relocating here from out of town. So that's going to be one of the areas that I have on my list that I would recommend that you check out. Do you like, it's kind of older homes, it's artsy and eclectic. it feels a little bit further away. You get there via this West Seattle Bridge, which is the main commute corridor. It's not that far really, but it can take, half an hour to get in. We've had the West Seattle Bridge closed for a while for reconstruction, earthquake retrofitting. Now I believe it's reopened. It used to take me like a full half hour to drive from here to here, from downtown Seattle to West Seattle. When I was showing people houses there, like every week they were coming up from Portland to look at West Seattle. So that's probably a neighborhood that I would recommend going ahead and putting on your list. And now I'm back on this list of most affordable places. They've got Lake Forest Park down here, which is actually, this is where I live. And I don't know what they're smoking. I don't think that Lake Forest Park is that affordable at all. Maybe they got their details wrong. I'm going to show you. This is, again, inside the MLS, we've got these statistical charts that we can show. So just to give you an orientation, each colored line represents the average prices in different parts of town. So the black line here at the bottom is King County. This is the whole county where Seattle is located. So that's the average of all of the city of Seattle and suburbs in the county. And so that average there, this is condos, homes, everything, 800,000. And if we want to just look at houses, we could turn that over to like single family homes of any kind. King County is 900,000. So I'm sure this will change. Prices are going up and down all the time, but this is what it is right now, the latest data that we have. And now comparing this to some of the best neighborhoods we had, Bellevue, 1.8 million. Sammamish, 1.7 million, and Mercer Island, a cool 2.5 million. So while these might tip the list of some sort of best of, it's going to be prohibitively expensive for quite a lot of people. So like I said, if you can afford this, well worth it. Very nice, lots of good opportunities, and they've maintained their values well over there. Just taking a peek, with the market going up and down over the last couple of years, it's subsided here a little bit, but it hasn't taken quite the big downturn that some of the other areas have. Now, we'll put in Lake Forest Park for purposes of comparison. Now, Lake Forest Park is the green line. I'm going to smooth this back out. Lake Forest Park is the green line, and it's a $1 million neighborhood. So it's not exactly the most affordable in Seattle. I'm not sure where they're getting that from. So that's my primary objection. I like Lake Forest Park. I think it's a great neighborhood. Maybe on your list, it's smaller, it's woodsy, it's hilly, it's by Lake Washington, very residential. But this is one that I wouldn't necessarily say is affordable on our most affordable list. Compare this to some of the ones that I called out as being more affordable. King County is here above the average line, and all of these are below average. So we have Renton at 725, Kent further south at 630, and Burien at 650,000. So again, everything is relative, but if you're wanting something more affordable, I would represent that as being below the median price point for the area. And so now I'm showing you what I would contend to be some of the best suburbs and neighborhoods of the Seattle area. These are mostly to the north. Let me show you on the map. So here's Seattle. I mentioned West Seattle, which is just this tip. Here's Alki, West Seattle. It's this little tip of land here. And it really gets a strong beachy vibe from having so much not only waterfront, but water view property. Like a lot of our Seattle neighborhoods, we start at lake level and go up. So when you're on the coast, especially, I guess it's called sea level if it's by the sea. Well, if you're by the coast, the land rises up pretty steeply. And so you get a lot of opportunities to be in a house that can at least see the water, even if you're not there. And you could probably buy $1 million water view property in West Seattle. And because this is kind of tucked away and alone, I feel like it does have its own vibe and its own safety profile, different from maybe the Ballards up here, which tend to be a little bit more vagrant intensive. My sister found a drug needle in the yard of her condo that was near the park there. She had neighbors like going out to walk their dogs and picking up all the needles before the kids would come out and play at the swing set. And a lot of like RV and car campers hanging out by the park as well. Really scarce parking in this area because they built a lot of vertical townhomes all over the place, but they don't have street parking for everybody. And a lot of people choose not to park in their garage either because it's too tiny. My sister's Honda could not actually fit into the garage in the townhouse. She had to reject a lot of homes because her car wouldn't fit. She wanted the safety of being able to park in her garage and not fight that on-street parking in the Ballard area. West Seattle is one I'm going to recommend. I also like this area up here. I'm going to circle it. I'm kind of giving myself a 2-for-1. This is the Bothell, Kenmore, Lake Forest Park area. Maybe we'll call it a 3-for-1. So I live right around here. I think it's brought up a lot because we do have this waterfront access, some nice residential areas here. And although we do have a bit busy road, Bothell Way, Lake City Way, this yellow road that goes through this area, it does not have the same types of problems with prostitutions and drugs that we see on Highway 99, this area. So I like Shoreline in general. My sister lives in Shoreline. I'm there all the time, but she reports some crazy stuff going on, when she goes to the Fred Meyer or the Lowe's, up and down this road. So if you go over here by the ocean, like Richmond Beach, Innis Arden, it's going to be a lot nicer. Here within a couple blocks of both, primarily Highway 99. To some extent, it's never that great to be that close to the freeway. So really kind of being in West Shoreline is what I would recommend. We've got West Seattle on the list. We've got this Lake Forest Park, Kenmore, Bothell area at the north end of Lake Washington. And then we've got West Shoreline right here. Now, if you can afford it, and if the commute works for you, I also really like Edmonds. So Edmonds has, and Woodway is a fancy upscale branch of Edmonds. So Edmonds has a fantastic, what they call bowl. It's almost like stadium seating where every house is looking out over the water. And it's got a fantastic waterfront full of shops. They have all sorts of little small town events. It really reminds me of Cabot Cove, where if you ever watched Murder, She Wrote, Jessica Fletcher would ride her bicycle around. I think it was probably in Maine or something, but it has that small town feel. There's a ferry coming and going. There's a sandy beach. There's a community center, scuba diving, public beach access where kids can come and make sandcastles and all sorts of things. A half a mile, maybe it's longer. It doesn't take that long to stroll down it, but they've got kind of a boardwalk area. You can walk by the marina where everyone has their fancy sailboats. You can see people launching kayaks and rowboats filled with crab pots in August, ready to go out there and catch some dinner. So I really like the vibe of the downtown Edmonds, which is has a good community feeling. And this is actually where my family and I have started to go for the 4th of July. So they have, horses and bands and, fancy cars, and everybody drive by on the 4th of July. They have fireworks and it's just fantastic. I would really recommend doing it. And you can watch my other video on downtown Edmonds. There's also one where I'm eating a donut. I'm not sure if those are the same one. They all run together at a certain point. But check out my video on Edmonds. I think it's really, really swell. And then the last one that I'm going to say is Bothell. And Bothell is actually pretty big. It goes up here toward Linwood and Woodinville. It's kind of all around here. But Bothell is great from a commute perspective. You can pop right into Bellevue. And it's not bad for getting into Seattle. You can go through here on Lake City Way, or you can go over the top on the freeway. I'll do both. Coming from right about here is where I live. I can go this way or I can go this way. And depending on traffic, it's good to have options. Bothell has become extremely popular lately. And as a result, it's gotten more expensive. I think I panned it at the beginning of the video because it was a little bit too expensive. But I wanted to show you some pricing. And again, pricing will change, but I expect the relative popularity of these neighborhoods to be just about right. So if you said, Kenmore is at the top of my list, but it turns out to be too expensive, so I'm going to back down and go into something less expensive, you would kind of know where to look. So here on this page, we have what I kind of call the 2-for-1, Kenmore and Lake Forest Park. And these are here at the top. Kenmore is 1.1 million, and Lake Forest Park is 1.1 million. And I would say that these are both primarily residential areas with commercial stuff along this road. So as you get down to the lake, you'll have some parks and some waterfront access and that type of thing. But there's this big road here, which is where a lot of the shopping and restaurants and things like that are. There's Lake Forest Park Town Center, which I just did a Lake Forest Park, Sheridan Beach, Sheridan Heights neighborhood tour. So if you want to see what that residential neighborhood looks like, that's right here on the Lake Forest Park side. And then Kenmore, I have some videos coming on that. And if you want them sooner rather than later, make sure you put that in the comments and let me know. But this is a nice area, and it's around 1.1 million for a house. I adjusted all of these to reflect residential, so it's houses of any size. Now looking at Edmonds, over here is where Edmonds is, and we also have Woodway, which is a top luxury neighborhood in the Edmonds area. Fancier homes, and then the Edmonds Bowl. However, the city of Edmonds kind of expands over here to Highway 99 and the Linwood area, where it's okay, but it's just not as nice. Like I said, this tends to be really commercial and sometimes a little weird here on Highway 99. So when we look at Edmonds, just bear in mind that there might be a difference between the city of Edmonds as a whole. All right, so just bear in mind that if you want a fancier waterfront, water view property, it's probably going to be a little bit on the higher side of average. And currently the average price there is $950,000. And then Richmond Beach is the least expensive of these areas, $875,000. And again, my sister lives in the Richmond Beach area. She finds it very nice, like friendly neighbors. People bring Christmas cookies to each other. They walk their dogs and chat at the bus stop and things like that. So she's really enjoyed living in Richmond Beach. You just have to be off the beaten trail. There are a couple of nice HOA protected communities here. Innis Arden is one, and the Highlands is a gated luxury community. So there are some really hot properties here that are water view, waterfront types of homes in the shoreline area. And this area is great for commuting. It's probably 10 minutes to pop onto the freeway and 30 minutes or less to drive into downtown Seattle. Living here, maybe a 35-minute commute into downtown Seattle in your car. So during rush hour, it's doable. And then Bothell, just because it's been so popular, this one has really been drummed up with a lot of interest lately. And here's the pricing on Bothell residential. It's the purple line. You can see how in the last couple of years, it's just grown above and beyond. It's become one of the most popular residential areas. And I think it's because in part of its proximity to the East Side, which we talked about before, right? The East Side being over here on Bellevue. So essentially, let's say you're commuting into Bellevue and you can't afford to live there. You have to expand from that area either down here. We've got some nice stuff going on in the Renton Highlands, good schools down there, but also, a lot of space taken up by these parks, by Lake Sammamish, making it hard to pop around the lake, also very expensive. And so it's just kind of like it leaks out and becomes less and less expensive as you get up here. And Bothell has great schools, which has really made it kind of the best of both worlds. You have this good top of the lake access for commuting. One spouse could go into Seattle, one could go into Bellevue, and you also have great schools. Compared to Linwood, which also has great commuter access, not as good schools, but it does have Alderwood Mall, and it does have a light rail station coming in. So that's going to be a really popular addition. So I will give Linwood a shout out. I have a nice video about Linwood that's been extremely popular, but just to say that it's not considered, it's generally like a step down from Bothell, because I would say primarily the schools are not as strong. So thanks so much for joining me. Make sure you watch the next videos here that are recommended for you. If you do have questions or are thinking about moving out to the area, don't hesitate to reach out. Keep researching, keep watching these videos, and when you have some specific questions, I'm always here to help. Look forward to seeing you on the next video. I'm Emily. Thanks for watching.